The memorial was created to honor Delacourte's late wife, Margarita, who devoted her life to children. The story of Alice in Wonderland had influenced Margarita's love for children and her joyful, whimsical character, as she read the story to her children quite often before she passed away. The memorial was also dedicated to children everywhere in the spirit of Margarita.
The location of the memorial is set in Central Park, a largely wooded area that contrasts the urban landscape surrounding it, which reflects the contrast between the memorial's whimsical, youthful elements and the serious world of adulthood that is New York City. Sat atop enormous bronze mushrooms, Alice is joined by the White Rabbit, the Mad Hatter, and the Cheshire Cat, the main characters of the story of Alice in Wonderland. Its antique appearance reveals the effect of the thousands of hands that have touched the memorial and rubbed off its smooth bronze finish. Surrounding the sculpture on bronze plates, lines from a poem, the Jabberwocky, and quotes from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. There are 7 plaques around the sculpture, and the very last is a quote from George Delacourt. The poem reads as follows.
Alice in Wonderland, in memory of my wife, Margarita Delacourt, who loved all children. Margarita Delacourt Memorial.
Speak roughly to your little boy and beat him when he sneezes. He only does it to annoy because he know it teases.
'Twas Brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the cobe. All mimsy were the borogoves and the mome rats outgrabe.
Tweedledum and Tweedledee agreed to have a battle, for Tweedledum said Tweedledee had spoiled his nice new rattle.
Beautiful soup so rich and green, waiting in hot tureen, who for such dainties would not stoop, soup of the evening, beautiful soup.
They told me you had been to her and mentioned me to him. She gave me a good character, but said I could not swim.
Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, how I wonder what you're at. Up above the world you fly, like a tea tray in the sky.
The visual elements convey a sense of youthfulness, joy, and silliness, sparking the imagination and happiness once experienced as a child.
The visual elements and written language tie together joy, whimsy, and carefree life represented within a child. It reminds us that life is not too serious. Life can be exciting and full of imagination. The creators of the sculpture establish ethos by tastefully choosing characters from a children's literature classic for the sculpture, and by creating it in a way that is inviting to both adults and children. Looking at the sculpture allows both children and adults to feel happy. The sculpture allows adults to reflect upon the happiness of their childhood and to recover the joy and excitement they had as children. The sculpture also creates joy, excitement, and imagination for children when they see and climb on the sculpture, but also allows us to respect the sculpture and reflect upon and understand the reason for the sculpture. The memorial asks the viewer to remember their childhood or happier times in their life and commemorates the life of Margarita and children everywhere.
At the time the statue was commissioned, there was little to no controversy. As time went on, children began to climb and play on the memorial, which is when controversy arose. The discovery that the Alice in Wonderland sculpture's surface is deteriorating because of constant contact with the public, and the fact that the sculpture is indeed a memorial for a beloved wife and mother, have caused an argument to emerge regarding whether or not children should be allowed to climb and play on the memorial. George Delacourt thought that allowing children to play on the sculpture would most accurately represent Margarita's memorial and how her love of children and fairy tale characters most influenced her life. Today, children continue to let their imaginations run wild as they climb atop the larger-than-life bronze mushrooms and play alongside the zany storybook characters. When we inquired various bystanders viewing the sculpture, we asked if they knew that the sculpture was actually a memorial before asking whether or not they thought children should be allowed to play on it. The responses were quite unique from each person.
How do you feel about the sculpture?
I think it's really awesome. I loved watching Alice in Wonderland as a child, and I forgot to come see it last year, so I came back to see it this year.
Does it bring back happy memories when you were a kid?
Yeah, absolutely, because I love watching the movie as a child, so I really like it. I think it's awesome.
Are you aware that this is a memorial?
No, I had no idea.
Do you think that it's a good idea, a respectful idea, that children are climbing on this sculpture?
I think if it's made for somebody that loves children, I think it's fine. Yeah, I think that's cool.
Okay, thank you so much.
No worries.
When you see this memorial, how does it make you feel about it?
It's almost enlightening. It's a beautiful piece.
When you look at it, does it kind of like remind you of your childhood? Are you familiar with the story?
Yeah, it does. I remember watching the movies even when it was in cartoons when I was younger, back in my country too. So
Are you aware that this is actually a memorial?
Not really.
The person who created it dedicated this to his wife.
Okay.
So, knowing that, do you believe that kids should be allowed to climb on it?
Climb on it. I don't think kids climbing on it would damage it at all.
Okay.
So I don't think kids climbing it would be much of a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, a memorial rather than just a sculpture. You are. Yeah. So, do you agree that it's a good idea for children to play on it? No. You don't think? You don't think it's a good idea?
No,
Why?
because it's a memorial and you've got to respect the sculpture as it is as well. So.
When you see the sculpture, does it bring back memories from childhood? Are you familiar with Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah, it's a book that I was brought up with in the UK. We always read it when I was growing up, yes.
Thank you.
Well, how do you feel like about this sculpture? Like, what does it remind you of?
Up to Alice, I think.
Do you think like little kids should be allowed to climb on it and like play on it?
Yes,
Yes.
that's great. Yes, I think it's important for children to be able to climb and to play in this memorial.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
How do you feel about this sculpture?
Well, I really like it because a cute little addition to the park as like something that kids can just like climb all over instead of something that has like please do not touch in front of it.
Does it remind you of like when you were younger?
Well, yeah, I actually go to a summer camp and it was like an Alice in Wonderland theme. Like just thinking about it, like it brings back memories. And
How do you feel when you see the sculpture?
It brings back childhood memories, I guess, of reading books.
Are you aware that it's actually a memorial?
Yes.
You are. So, do you think it's a good idea that children should be able to play on it?
No, I think it's disrespectful. I wouldn't let mine play on it.
The Alice in Wonderland Memorial at Central Park, New York City, respectfully honors Delacorte's wife, Margarita, and her love for children. Commissioner and husband of Margarita, George Delacorte, sculptor of the Alice in Wonderland Memorial, Jose de Kreft, and architect and designer for the memorial, Hideo Sasaki, successfully convey a sense of emotional remembrance and imagination through the sculpture. As a child, one experiences joy, silliness, and imagination. The sculpture provokes excitement to the eyes and heart through two literary works by Lewis Carroll, his poem The Jabberwocky, and his novel Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And by bringing his works to life, people are able to reconnect with the positive emotions of their childhood. The Alice in Wonderland Memorial respects and commemorates the life of Margarita.